Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the day one of reInvent. For those who had celebrated Thanksgiving, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving with family and friends. If you have traveled here, I hope your journey was smoother than mine, because my travel was a disaster. Let me tell you what happened. I flew in right in the middle of the winter storm hitting the Midwest. So due to the bad weather, lots of the flights were canceled. It's hundreds and thousands of flights were canceled, and it was a mess. When I reached airport, I got not one, three different gate updates. My phone said B12, whereas the email alert said B17, and the monitor in front of me at the airport confidently said C7. So I was standing at the terminal, understanding, having the moment of clarity, saying that even if something as simple as a gate number can become your adventure story, that's exactly the challenge that we are going to unpack today. From fragmented systems to unified data, to power, accelerate, and transform AML experiences across your organizations. So if that was your travel journey, welcome, you are around the friends. However, we are finally here, and we are together in this room, and we are going to kick off the day one of reInvent, we are going to kick off the reInvent in this room. So along with me today, I've joined by two speakers, one Garima Sharma, VP of Data at Rocket, and Ilya Fisher, Director of Engineering at Rocket. You're going to hear directly from them what transformation, innovation, the architecture, the wins, and the hard-earned lessons that can help you to accelerate your journey. So let's start with a simple question. What happens when your data grows faster than you actually uses it? I'll give a second for you to think. Honestly, that's every enterprise right now. That's true. Every enterprise is accumulating or collecting the data more than ever from the more systems and in different many formats, faster than their teams can organize it. So what is the side effect of it? Your data maybe gets richer, but turning the data into insights, into actions, into AI, that gets poorer. So why? Because that would be your constraint. So that's when the fragmentation creeps in. So how does this actually happen in the organization? Is it like organizations sit out and say that, hey, let's create a fragmented mess in your organization? Definitely no. So they'll set a goal to say that move faster. The three main things that every organization set the goals to their team is, one, innovate, and scale out faster, and the third, reduce the time to market. These are the three things that we always say. But what happens with every product launch? When you stand up every new use case, you're going to solve a problem from the local team, and you celebrate the wins. But what happens? Fragmentation creeps in. So under the hood, when you launch a new product or launch a new use case, it comes with its own customer data, and it comes with its own schema, own pipeline, and own data assets. Because of that, you will be having different multiple sources of truth. Individually, they are successful, but when you collate all these things together, collectively, this is fragmentation. And what happens when it happens over the period of time, when you have this innovation cycle keep going on to your organization, that will accumulate, you are ended up having multiple sources of truth. As I've given in my introduction, the same flight from the same airline, I'm getting the different gate updates. Why? Because you have multiple sources of truth which can derive the gate number. The same that's going to happen because of the multiple sources of truth that's going to be coexist in your organization. You don't know who owns the data and what part of data is useful and how the data going to be cleaned, or whether is it the golden source of truth or not. So you ended up in those situations. So let's take a quick poll check. I want to test the room, whatever I spoke about until now, the fragmented systems, the inconsistency in the metrics. Who resonates with this? Please raise your hands when I call it out few of the things. Is your data spread across dozens of systems in your organization? Okay, I see a few hands raised. And the next one, does different teams define the same metrics differently? Awesome. and the third one, how harder it is to you to find the data, or in a way, how much time that you are finding the data rather than using it. Awesome, I see a hand raised. And all of our favorite questions, all of the above. When we don't know the answer, all of the above is the perfect answer. So everything we talked about, the fragmentation has a problem and is a side effect of the innovation. Or you can call it as a tax that we are paying out of the innovation that we have done. So what exactly and why does it even matter? Think of this. When the fragmentation system happened, it's not just one of the team is getting bottlenecked. It is across how you turn the accumulated data into insights, how much value we are deriving from the data. That's where your downstream systems are getting impacted. And when do you realize that you have a fragmented systems in your organization? When your teams are spending more data in finding the right data to use. When your AML teams are waiting for you to get your data cleanliness and have the data ready for them to train the models. And as the AI is becoming a biggest thing in the market, when you want to adopt AI, and everyone complains about accuracy, because why the accuracy get matter? When you talk about RAG patterns, retrieval augmented generation, every time when you want to give, and if the data is not cleansed enough and it's not clean enough, you're going to impact your accuracy. That's why it is matter. And different organizations, fields have this pressure at a different magnitude. Let's imagine you are the #1 mortgage provider in the United States. And you are serving 1 in 6 mortgages in the country. And if all these things are happening, that your data is flowing from hundreds of systems and thousands of processes and built one top of each other. And now imagine you are the leader to unify all these systems together. How do you feel? And what other things comes to your thoughts? To share this first-hand information, Rocket is going through the same transformation right now at their organization. And to share directly the inputs, let's welcome Garima Sharma, the VP of Data of Rocket Companies, to talk about how the transformation is going on at Rocket.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Garima Sharma from Rocket Companies. Rocket's mission is simple: to help everyone experience home, with which comes stability, hope, and that sense of belonging. Every architecture decision we make, every automation we deploy, and every capability we build with AWS ultimately serves that mission. Because for us, in the end, it is not about building technology, it is about creating pathways to home. Rocket has always been an innovative company, leading the transformation in housing industry. We were the first to launch online mortgages in 1998. We were the first to launch fully digital mortgages in 2015. We were also the first to take them mobile, and the very first to deliver full e-closings for all 50 states in 2019. And just about 2 years ago, we were the first in our space to declare an AI-fueled homeownership strategy. When you innovate at that pace, naturally new systems, new data, and new tools come with each milestone. And here's the important part. In that growth and progress, we realized that we needed a data foundation because for a mission this big, you need a foundation that can match. All that innovation was incredible for business. We were moving fast, and we were opening doors to new capabilities. But as teams were innovating and building, we began noticing 3 distinct patterns in our data landscape. Not problems, but signals that we were outgrowing the way things were done before. The first, siloed and duplicated data. As teams were building great solutions, you can imagine they were doing it often independently, which meant similar data sets existed in multiple places. Second, as our data grew in volume and variety, finding the right data for the right use case became harder and time-consuming. And the third, as our data grew in volume, we had definitely very rich data sets. However, utilizing them at scale for analytics, machine learning, and AI became harder than it needed to be. None of this was unique to Rocket. Every high-growth company and innovative company finds itself in such a situation. But the key point here for us was we recognized that we needed a strong foundation if we were to be successful in our mission. And once we recognized what rapid innovation brings, we were able to make a core decision, which is move everything to one unified data lake, build on open table formats, standardized ingestion, and shared governance. This was more than an infrastructure choice for us. It was an operating model choice and a speed choice. At our scale of about 10 plus petabytes of data back then and 30 plus petabytes of data now, we knew that innovation cannot happen rapidly if our data was living on islands. So we made a very simple decision to adopt a most universal pattern. Bring everything into one place, clean, consistent, governed, and make it usable for everyone. Let me show you what that looked like. When we talk about unified data foundation, this is what we mean. Rocket's data comes in every shape: structured, semi-structured, unstructured. And traditionally, each data type lived in its own system. Once we got the lake, that gave us a place where everything flew in a standardized way. Regardless of the format, everything followed a standard pattern and architecture. The data lake gave us a place where we now finally had a unified foundation. And with this foundation, you can imagine the value explodes upward. BI now has standard definitions. Machine learning and AI teams now have clean features at scale, and analytics and streaming become faster. When we began modernizing our data landscape, our vision was simple: build a platform that powers every workload: real-time, batch, machine learning, AI. And we knew that we needed to have one foundation, one lake. So how we went about it? Step 1 was hydration. We brought data from about 12 different OLTP systems and brought them and landed it into one lake. The step 2, and then that lake was, of course, on S3-based Amazon technology. Step 2 was automation. We built standardized ingestion pipelines using EMR and Glue and adopted Parquet as our default storage format. Step 3 was security from day one. We encrypted everything: disk, file, field, at rest, in transit, and in use. Aggregating 10 plus petabytes of data into single lake gives access. But as you all know, access doesn't mean understanding. And the next step for us was curation, to give the entire company a shared language around data. Instead of 30 teams building their own versions of customer data, we created Customer 360, a single, governed, and trusted view of the client. The same happened for Mortgage 360 and Transaction 360, which are single, governed, trusted view of mortgage loan and a client's transaction. Each one has standardized definitions, consistent metrics, and clear ownership. And this wasn't just a data project for us, it was actually a cultural shift for us, because we moved from duplication to standardization, from tribal knowledge to data products, from searching for data to discovering it. And once we curated our data layer, we finally had the foundation to operationalize machine learning, AI, and analytics, and real-time decisioning at scale. We not only improved how we used data, but we also unlocked what we could build on top of it. And with this strong data foundation, we created the runway for something bigger, to reimagine homeownership end-to-end. Traditionally, the housing industry works in silos. You have one company that helps you find a home, another company helps you finance it, and another company helps you own and manage it. But homeownership isn't 3 distinct, disconnected stages. It's one journey. And this is exactly how now Rocket is able to treat it. By bringing Redfin, Rocket, and Mr. Cooper together, we are now able to support a client across the entire journey. And so we can help them find home, finance, and own the home. This foundation was important for us because now it helped us create solutions, impact clients, and business performance in ways that we hadn't imagined. And results showed up immediately. During the early phase of integration, 40,000 servicing leads seamlessly flowed into our unified platform within just 9 days, clean, governed, and ready for activation. On day 12, a client from the integration went from application to closing in just 3 days, something that previously would have taken the industry weeks. Our engagement engine began analyzing conversations, client behavior, and started surfacing the right outreach at the right moment, and that drove up to 9 points our banker follow-ups. We saw a 10% lift in conversion across daily credit pulls and applications. And when in September, the refi wave came in, our systems were able to instantly pull qualified clients and activate personalized outreach for them. And that led to 20% increase in refinance pipeline just overnight. We now can unify servicing data, client intent, and behavioral signals, and that has led us to achieve 3x recapture rate as compared to the industry. When you have such a strong foundation, nothing is impossible for you. But it took hard work, it took a lot of effort across the team, and it took a lot of alignment across teams to show the value of a unified data foundation. And whatever I've shared so far, the platform, the AI impact, and the data foundation was not accidental at all. It was the result of three things: intentional architecture, repeatable patterns, and governance. So let me now hand it off to my colleague, Ilya Fisher, who will walk you through how we made all that possible under the hood. So please welcome Ilya Fisher.
Right. Thank you, Garima. Whoa, the microphone is working. Good morning, reInvent. Well, it's so much energy in this room. Do you feel excited for this whole week of events? I am excited. I am excited to see so many folks here willing to hear about the modern data architecture, because it means to me that whatever we'll share with you today, you'll take back home to your companies, to your businesses, and you'll evolve. You'll evolve. So in the years to come, we'll be coming to reInvent, and we'll be seeing new patterns, new technologies that maybe just one of you will keep driving. Let me start the presentation with some personal story. About 10 years ago, I was buying my own home, and I had to secure I had to secure mortgage. I didn't go to Rocket. I went to a different broker, so had a very interesting experience. Maybe many of you went through it, buying a home, collect your pay stubs for 6 months backwards, the bank statements, the investment statements, the tax forms, scan every document as a PDF, and I had this HP scanner, so I couldn't put a bulk of them, just had to scan page by page, and then email to my mortgage broker. And I was very much worried for two things. Firstly, I hoped that I'll get the mortgage to buy the home. I did. About 2 weeks later, I received the answer that I get the mortgage. And secondly, I was very much worried that there is no anyone else who is buying their own home with my identity, since I was sharing all these confidential documents through an email. And 10 years later, seems like that hasn't happened yet. Who knows? But I'm sharing this story because maybe not as insecure, but in terms of the latency and the manual labor, this is what Rocket Mortgage was doing decades ago. And it's an entirely different story today. Decisions like this, actually millions of them, happen in under 8 minutes. Everything through secure portal, through secure connections, and people get the data, get an idea if they can buy a home literally in minutes, or in rare situations, in days. And how did it happen? How did we went through waiting for weeks until knowing that you can get that loan to buy a home to hours, so maximum few days? And it happened because we threw away the old playbook of treating data as a call center. Sorry for the call centers, hopefully no one from a call center here. And we turned the data to the engine that runs the company. 210 machine learning models, thousands of data pipelines, and all that runs on full automation with zero human intervention. This is what more Rocket companies do today. This is what we achieved by building a modernized data platform without hiring hundreds of engineers, without purchasing any silver bullet software. All that by building that modernized data platform, which I'm going to share with you. So buckle up. In the next 20 minutes or so, we'll go through the steps of building that platform, through the architecture patterns, through the design patterns, and I hope you'll find it interesting and insightful. So before I deep dive into the actual services that run the platform, let me step back and share with you how typical data platform, modern data platform looks like, which most companies converge on. And it boils down to three clean decoupled layers. And the first layer you can see on your screens, it's called ingestion. Its goal is to get everything in fast as it arrives. Real-time streams, APIs, file drops, SaaS connectors, The Swiss knife of tooling, if you wish, is supported to get the data quickly into your platform in a raw, immutable format, ideally, like Garima was mentioning, using open formats like Parquet, so that easy to integrate the data with a plethora of tools. So this is the first layer, which is called, again, ingestion. Just land your data as fast as it arrives, reliably, securely, in a raw format. The next comes the processing layer. Transform once, but serve many. So our data lake intends to support so many different use cases, and we don't want to ad hoc process data for each of them, so we want to transform once. This is the key statement, once. But then again, the data will serve many. The overall data lake is partitioned in 3 zones. The first zone is raw. This is where the ingested data lands. It's exactly what's landed forever, unchanged. The next level is process data. So the process data is enriched, cleansed, the PII managed according to these standards, standardized to the standards you define in your platform, right? And this is the process layer. Still not ready for your business consumption. So the conformed layer is the third one, and its data gets the shape of business level domain aligned form, so that many consuming applications from your platform, many consuming use cases will find it useful for their specific business case. Now, again, remember, transfer once, serve many. So, right, there are many use cases, there are many business use cases. However, we want to ensure that our transformation goes only once and produces the data that we need. All those transformations are event-driven when possible, scheduled when necessary, declarative version controlled, so you always know what's going on. You have a solid audit trail how these transformations go, and this is what platform's goal is to provide. And well, last but not least is the consumption layer. I call it a gateway to your platform. One version of truth for every possible consumer. So again, one version of truth is the key. We don't want to have siloed data. We don't want the users of our platform to think which version is the right one. So our platform provides a unified service, a unified data set for a variety of those business use cases, including analysts doing business intelligence, agentic applications, data scientists training their models. All of them point to the very same well-governed data set that our platform provides. All that, this kind of overarching schema, architecture, if you wish, not the architecture, more like schema, gives you a highly scalable infrastructure, gives you pay only for what you use economics, and we'll talk more about that, and drastically lower your operational overhead, because you have like a well-formatted 3 phases that your data goes through. Your processing takes care about so many use cases. Your ingestion, your consumption are Swiss knives, easily extendable to support new ingestion patterns, new ingestion systems, if you wish, and on the consumption, all the new scenarios that your platform must support in your business. But now let's go a bit more to the details about each of those layers, how it works. So today, it's not about picking a tool to make data work. It's about building a clean, modular pipeline for ingest, process, and consume that is supporting so many of those use cases. And again, going back to the ingestion, get any data in fast and reliably. We would support the API gateway running on Elastic Kubernetes service. We would support replication of data between SaaS services into S3 buckets. We would support streaming data with Amazon Kinesis. All that is included in our ingestion layer, supporting all the business use cases. And as soon as new business case arrives to source data from a new platform, from a new source, we can easily extend the ingestion and accommodate it. And a bonus is that ingested data is landing in an S3 bucket, which is our raw data lake, raw data zone in the lake. And as a result, we get out-of-the-box versioning, audit trailing of the data. We built a resilient data lake with geographical replication and availability when needed. And that's like an extra bonus that we get when relying on AWS. Next is the processing layer. Transform once, use everywhere. So again, you see those three standard test buckets at the bottom: the raw, the processed, and the conformed data. Some people, you might have heard, call them bronze, silver, and gold. So, and on top of them, the data processing orchestration is event-driven when possible and time-based for heavy ETL workflows. We rely on Glue as the most general use case for highly scalable compute situations with provision EMR. Amazon Managed Flink service helps us to deal with streaming data. And for a very lightweight workflows, we find lambdas and step functions giving very good economics to make lightweight data transformations. It's a personal hint. If you rely on step functions, it's an amazing tool, very addictive with its friendly UI. But if your data ends up being virtually streaming, what I noticed in my experience, I had a situation where my step functions became to run 1,000 times in a minute, and bill spikes very quickly. So it's always important to monitor very well your expenses, your costs, and using elastic services in your compute, but also being elastic yourself to see how you restructure your architecture to send data via the right channels. And so again, this is the processing layer using all these tools. There is no religion, like I mentioned. You should be smart to see which tool works for each use case, what gives you the right economics, and they all are elastically scalable services. So in the data world, you have certain periods of the year, a month, week, a day, when you have high scalability needs. You have other times when you need low scalability needs. So using AWS, we're getting that elasticity of compute, of the processing, and that gives us near perfect economics so that we pay exactly for what we need and when we need, and we get that compute when we need. And with not much overdue, lastly, the consumption layer. One platform, many consumers. Same data, that's the importance here. The same data served for every possible consumer without duplication. And this is what I saw so many times in businesses that, well, our data scientists read from their data set, and our application reads from their database, and they're not the same. So my data scientists train models on something one, and eventually their machine learning-based application doesn't work as expected with real data used in a different application. So this is what platforms knows to solve well by, again, having that one platform, one data set for so many use cases: analytics, BI, operational use cases, machine learning, SageMaker feature store pulling straight from the lake, sometimes external sharing for integration with other platforms like Redshift data sharing or just S3. As a result, all those teams work on the very same governed data set without, again, worrying that they use something different, something wrong. And so building this platform with a plethora of those AWS services is, call it table stakes now. But how do you make sure you can actually operate it at scale? Because you could see there are so many services, and I was saying, well, guys, we need to take care about the governance, make sure that all our data, all our resources are tagged properly for right economics, for right ownership identification. We need to be flexible to add new ingestion patterns, new consumption patterns. Do we allocate like 100 people to maintain the tool? No, we do not. All that drills down to very well-defined MLOps and DevOps system behind the scenes that automates that all, running it on autopilot, repeatable, governed, and self-healing. There are no tickets, there is no console click it, no exceptions, no heroics. Otherwise, we would just wouldn't be able to scale it for so many consumers, for so many resources and use cases. The moment the new data lands in the S3 bucket in the ingestion on your left, all the downstream is already pre-provisioned, the events, the ETL pipelines, the machine learning models which you're expecting the data to train, and basically runs seamlessly. And what we did, actually, and this is a good pattern that I recommend to you, I want to note it specifically. Initially, we started with standard DevOps, source code first, of course, infrastructure as code, and you provision your glue, your Lambda, your step function, all that. But then we realized that the challenge still persists. Like, okay, so I provisioned my glue job, so what about that Lambda that needs to trigger it? I need to provision it as well. And then I need permissions from Lambda to glue jobs to execute it. And then my Lambda needs to listen to an event coming from S3 bucket, so I need those permissions, et cetera, and that takes days. Even so partially automated, it takes a day, sometimes week, for a team member to build all this architecture pattern. So with the well-defined architecture that you saw, we realized that we can identify those patterns and give engineers literally the blocks of deployment patterns which they can reuse. And those blocks would give them right away the event listener, the Lambda, the permissions, the glue job, all the tags, all the governance in place for personal information processing, for general information processing, all that as a single package, so that they come, take it, and deploy literally in under 10 minutes instead of spending weeks, sprints, build all that infrastructure. Data scientists, they treat the model exactly the same as the code. When they merge the changes to their model, it automatically gets deployed and using blue-green deployment style and with the right metrics, with the right monitoring, so that if there is a model drift, in other words, model starts to produce results which weren't initially expected, or there are any other software issues with that model, the rollback happens automatically. And they just get an event, an email that, well, guess what? The change that you tried to make didn't go as expected. We rolled back for you. Go take a look tomorrow. You don't need to go to PagerDuty alert in the middle of the night. And same comes for application API developers building APIs using Canary deployments so they can safely check how things work in a lower volume. And later on, again, having all the automation and metrics embedded into the CI/CD pipelines deployments, which help them identify any issues early before they impact customers and automatically heal the pipeline, the changes that, the issues which occurred. So this is about the platform, and we covered quite many areas. The overall structure, we covered the specific implementation details with those great AWS services that you all know, the open data format, the MLOps and DevOps behind the scenes. But how does this work, right? This foundation isn't just sitting there. It's supporting so many enterprise-grade solutions in our company. And those include, again, 360 APIs. Well, not 360 of those, but a few APIs which give you a roundabout view of your data models. They support the data scientists. They support the business analysts with static dashboards. But one of the most exciting features to me, and well, guess what? It's almost 2026, so how without it? It's the agentic applications, which is, in my humble opinion, is the future of business intelligence, which will replace static typical BI dashboards. And what I'm going to try to do now, I'll make a quick demo to show how that agentic application works at Rocket. Exactly the same one that I'm demoing you is being used by many of our executive stakeholders, except that the data you'll see, and that's a legal disclaimer, it's synthetic data, but everything else is true and valid exactly as it works. So let me see how we make it work here. Just do one click. Okay. That's we'll be playing video, and okay, it's actually working. We'll be playing video. I'll be pausing to catch up and tell what I'm showing. So what you are seeing in this browser window on your screen is the system. I wouldn't call it platform. It's the system we developed, enabling non-so-technical users of our platform to quickly stand up new agents for their business use cases. The interface is very intuitive. You don't need to be a too technical person. You explain the data sources that you want to use. You explain the context that you want to get, the information you want to retrieve. And then the system allows you to create a new bot, a new application, which will talk and with the very same data set behind the scenes and produce for you the results like I'm going to share with you. One note, probably all of you are familiar with ChatGPT and Grok and many similar systems. It's not the same. It's not the same as the chatbot that helps to polish your text or some fine general information on the internet or elsewhere and telling you, well, please verify the data because it's my best effort. In this case, all the data is sourced from the very same data platform which we've just showed. So the APIs, the BI dashboards, and these agents get it from the very same data source, and you can rely on the data as the true source of truth for your analytics and for making executive decisions. So let's continue the playback. In this case, we'll ask a very simple question. It's just so little on that screen, I hardly can see it. We'll ask a simple question. So what is the average mortgage amount right now? And the agent will go and behind the scenes will fetch this information, will fetch you the data in a matter of seconds. You don't need to think how you run those SQL queries. It's all very much interactive. And the average loan amount in September was $288,000. And if you're very curious how that agent received the data, or you just want to get some technical insights, you go to the SQL tab, and it shows you exactly what data was made to our analytical data stores to fetch the data. Okay, but what if I want to split this data and reorganize it by states? And if in the old world, I would need to go and think how do I rebuild my queries, how to test multiple times, then how do I visualize that? And here you go, using some natural language, you quickly get the table of all the average loan amounts per state, the number of those loans if you wish. You can visualize this data in a variety of graphs, the pie, the line charts, depending. You can embed this data in any of your reports, and obviously also have that SQL tab to see how it works. Well, but what if I want a bit more analysis? Tell me what it needs. So I can ask agent, well, analyze this data for me. And the agent will right away give you key insights. They'll give you the premium markets where people take most mortgages. They give you the regional trends, all kinds of information that can be valuable for you if you're a business analyst or just a team member, associate, generating a report about the last week, the last month, which, by the way, can also be automated using this platform. And what if you want to cross-reference those loans with the interest rates? In ease, right? So you don't need to think how you write query, how you test query. You get right away all the information, and the agent spits it out in seconds. Again, you can verify the query it provides, you can filter, you can visualize in different graphs how, again, those loans amounts, their numbers, and the interest rates all correlate to each other. I can go ahead and ask to analyze deeper all this information, and at the end of this analysis, I'll get a full-fledged report for my mortgages and for the interest rates in September, I can learn from that report about the states with high mortgages, where people take high mortgages, and how it affects the interest rates. The agent will tell you, well, the interest rates are low in those states, and the opposite happens in those states where the mortgages are, the loans a bit smaller. So all that gives you that kind of interaction, which you can, again, just grab this report, share in your newsletter, share in your presentation, share in your narrative, updating your business stakeholders, and also the insights. The insights based on the very long experience of our company, how these trends affect the trends and affect the company. So again, all that is not some kind of a story or fairy tale I'm sharing. It's not a POC running on this laptop. It's actually running in production today. Actually, tens of agents like this running in production based on the very same data platform that I presented to you guys, and helping us to drive the business efficiently. With saying that, I'll pass the microphone back to Sujan, to our senior architect, and to wrap up and tell more about some of those services behind the scenes that drive the toll. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Ilya. OK, so far what you heard about from Rocket is how they have transformed their organization to be ready for the AI readiness. And as the executives at Rocket had said, AI-fueled home ownership, and how the foundation has been built to power the vision that the executives has been set for an organization to take. So let's see how they have got it there. So we always see three patterns at AWS that most of the successful enterprises have followed. So, and the first one is aggregate. So the principle here is you have to unify your data from the different data sources. So either it is structured, semi-structured, or unstructured data. Bring all the data together into a single place and choose one standardized format as an open table format. Here in this case, Rocket was using an Apache Iceberg on an Amazon S3 tables. So what happens when you do an aggregation or unify your data? It removes the fragmentation, and it will help accelerate your downstream systems and downstream teams. What is the second one? Curate. So once you unify the data, as Garima rightly said, instead of multiple teams building the same data again and again, you become the data products. Like curate the data into the dimensions, or dissect the data, unified data, into the right dimension that can be helpful for your teams to take advantage of, rather than they're rebuilding it. So the second one is curate. So, and which services can be helpful in having curation stage? Amazon EMR, Glue Catalog, and the Data Zones. You can get all these different services. I'm just naming few, but you can build your systems into more in the curation systems. So what happens when you would love to go one more step ahead? Hey, I don't want just curate and have that data like one more other table within our data lab, or the data warehouse, or the data lake. Like, why should you do that? OK, let's have the data sits into curation into one of the data formats. Because as Garima said about the data products, Mortgage 360, Customer 360, and the Transaction 360. So once you have these data products curated, make them accessible via APIs, so that it's readily, easily consumable for all your downstream systems. Even the agents demo that Ilya had showcased, because those APIs are readily available, you can accelerate your agentic systems in your organization. How many of you here are building AI agents right now? OK, good. So if you want to accelerate, you need to have this data foundation ready and have your data products as an extended via APIs. These are our LinkedIn profile QR code. If you would love to scan, please feel free to scan. If there is any follow-up question that you would like to have after this, we are happy to help. And once again, thank you for choosing to spend first hour with us, and happy reInvent.